Welcome to District Talk. I am Dr. Mary Malone, Superintendent of Schools. We are very pleased to bring to you a show focused on all the great happenings in our schools. Come learn along with us. Welcome to District Talk. I'm Superintendent Malone, and today we're going to talk about our literacy program in K-5 in our elementary schools. The program is Responsive Literacy, otherwise known as a Balanced Literacy Program. I have special guests with me here today to talk about our new literacy program. I have Courtney Powell, who is a first grade teacher at Laura White. I have our 3 to 5 literacy coach, Nancy Pascaretta. Over here we have Mrs. Jen Silver, who is a grade 1 teacher at Laura White, and we have the K-2 coach, Diane Lyons. The program, this is our third year of implementation, and as you know, the first group to learn the program was the K-2 teachers, beginning with learning the new assessment system. That was year 1, and then year 2 we rolled into learning guided reading, and this year you're really working on, you're deepening your understanding with support of the coaches of the implementation of the program. Mm-hmm. And I know both of you have been very supportive and really like the new program, so could you please talk about what you think are some of the strengths of this new reading program and how you're doing it with your students in the classroom?
Absolutely.
Something that I've implemented in my class this year is the interactive read aloud. And I found, I'm able to choose books for the students, and they're at a higher reading level for them, so the students aren't reading them, but I'm reading it to them, and it allows our more struggling readers to hear that fluent text and to hear those higher level reading, higher level books. And I find that as I'm reading to them, they're having much deeper conversations with each other, and they're really thinking more critically about the book. And from the beginning of the year to now, I've seen such huge growth in their comprehension, and it's just, something as simple as reading to them and talking to them about their books has shown to have such tremendous impact on their learning and their engagement with books, and it kind of carries over to across all different types of things. So I've really enjoyed that piece of it.
And someone might say, well, we've always been reading books to children aloud in the classroom, so what makes the interactive read aloud, what's the differentiator than just simply, bringing the kids around you and reading a book? Because you've always done that.
Right. I think it's getting them to talk about it. I think the difference is it's not just us holding a book and reading the whole thing and saying, oh, that was fun to read. It's kind of stopping at a point and asking them to think critically about it and what's happening or how are the characters feeling, or and they're talking with each other, and I think they're becoming active listeners, and they're talking about it and not just complacently listening. So I think that's where the magic happens, I guess, with their...
And Jen, you've been so good about intentional teaching.
Thank you.
Your selection of your books and how one book and the next book work together.
Right.
And that makes a big difference.
Yes, the text sets. Yes, that's a good point to have, kind of pulling them all together, which is great.
Right, so there's really a strategy to the interactive read aloud that needs to be learned and needs to be practiced in the classroom, and students are responding.
Yes, very well.
Yes, they're engaged.
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
So I think for a long time we were all kind of doing guided reading in our own element. And one thing that I think has really grown with the students is this ability to share with each other. After we do centers or when we do writing, the students share with each other, and they're really giving each other great feedback. Just the other day, we had a student read a story, and some of the comments that I heard some of the students say are, I noticed you tried, or you might try, or I wonder if you could try this. And just that sense of community that it's built within the classroom, not just with, reading in their small groups, but working together for that entire block has been something that I personally think has been one of the biggest accomplishments this year.
Because if we think about in traditional reading, teaching of reading, and I was part of that, and maybe you as well, we had reading groups, Group A, Group B, or the group, the Bs, or and they would come up and be in an isolated group, and you'd do a lesson, they'd go back to the seats, and you'd call it Group 2. Right? So this is, what I'm hearing is that there's so much more interaction among the children and the understanding.
Yes, and they're working together. We introduced the Wonder Center into our classroom this year, which has been really exciting. One of the things we did was they were live streaming, watching a zoo, and they were writing about what they noticed, and just hearing the conversation conversations between the students has been really interesting, and the support that they're giving each other, helping them spell or showing the word wall, that's been really nice for me to see.
Yeah, that ownership
Right.
of their learning. They're much more actively involved.
So what are the main components of this responsive literacy program? Like, what should we be seeing, and how does it all
Well,
fit together?
as I'm in my what's called field year through Lesley University, so this is my second full year with training. There are different components. The interactive read aloud is part of it, but there's reading workshop, there's writing workshop, there's guided reading. There is for the older grades, there's book club, there's reading mini lessons, there's writing mini lessons, there's whole group share. So there are quite a few different components. There's word study as you get to the older grades, which is a replacement for standard vocabulary and spelling instruction. So there are a lot of things. I want to say that interactive read aloud kind of like starts it all off,
Right.
and you can stem all your other lessons from it. We also do the BAS, the assessment that we're using for students. So there is quite a lot to it. There's a lot of different components, and it is a different way of teaching. When I learned it initially last year in my classroom, I kind of had to go cold turkey and stop everything that I was doing. Spelling book, novel sets, and all of that, and I had to embrace everything and start from scratch. So there is a lot of new learning, but it's good. It really is. I'm seeing a lot of benefits. At least in 5th grade where I teach.
So we start the school year with what we call the BS, which stands for the Benchmark Assessment System.
Right.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that, especially the teachers, how that helps inform you of your learners' level of reading, and where do you go from there?
Well, I think one thing that Diana's really worked hard on this year is not just doing the BAS, but also doing running records. And we're really closely looking at where those students are making those errors and where those breakdowns occurred. I know prior to really looking into that, I would say, okay, this child is, a level C. And they're a level C. But where's that breakdown occurring? And to really look at if it's the meaning or if it's a comprehension skill that they need to focus on, that's been helpful to me to be able to really delve into what this student specifically needs. It's also helpful with groupings.
Yes.
You think that here they are at the beginning of the year and they'll be here by the middle of the year, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes students make these great gains, and sometimes we're not aware that, wow, they really have a lot more, or, ooh, this is kind of a breakdown there. So that's been helpful.
And I think, if we assess a group of students and 7 of them come out at a level C, there might be a group that is a C but needs a lot of work on fluency, but then there's another group that's a C because their comprehension really is a struggle. And I think the BAS, the assessment really helps us narrow that down and kind of pinpoint where they're having those challenges.
So would you say the assessment system gives you much more data and a deeper understanding of your students' reading abilities
Yes.
and levels?
And I think the analysis piece is the most important part.
Right.
We can sit with the student and do it, and then we then need to take the assessment and look at the meaning and where they're making the errors to really make those informed decisions for our groups.
That's what I've been impressed. I've observed some reading groups and how you mark down very specific what the student says or a word they skip or if they can't sound out a word, and that informs running records. I'm thinking.
That's right.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about the?
Sure. Well, a running record is it's kind of a shorthand notation where you learn how to mark down exactly what a reader is doing in relation to what the text is. And then after you've done the notation, you can sit down and analyze and look to was the student, where did the breakdowns happen, and where does my teaching need to go to help bring that student further along.
Another thing that the BAS does is it informs some of your whole class instruction. And I'll give you an example. If I'm doing a BAS in the beginning of the year and I'm asking questions like, what is the genre of this book? And they have no idea. I know that I can do mini lessons on genre, or if they have no idea what's author's message, I can do mini lessons. So not only does it help to give you a better understanding of the reader as an individual, but it also gives you some ideas of what to teach the whole class. And before, as a 5th grade teacher, I didn't have all that information. I really have a lot more specific information for individual students, and also how's it going to drive the classroom instruction.
Right.
So I love the BAS as opposed to what we had before. It's really good.
And I could weigh in and say when I taught, obviously this was all all of this, and I'd often wonder at the end of the year, like, did they learn? And how did I I had no really way of knowing except for the test I gave along the way.
Right.
And so we were talking, on the normal curve. Well, if you have so many kids that didn't pass and so many kids that scored average, then I was a good teacher. But that is so contrary because who that's not the way we need to be teaching, right? We not say, okay, well, you didn't learn some of the material, so that therefore I gave a good test and that was good teaching. You know what I mean? It's very contrary because when you've listened to Sal Khan and others, they'll say, even if a student gets 95% on an exam, they did not learn 5% of the material.
Right.
And so how are we going back and reteaching that? And bringing it back to the literacy, everyone around this table, and I know all of us here in the district, we know that reading is the most important piece to success. If you can't read, then we know what those predictors are for kids, and the research is it abounds with, at the end of third grade, that is a critical year, and that's why these elementary years, kindergarten and first grade and second grade, are so critical to students reading. So, and now you have a couple of coaches, and I know that Mrs. Lyons is in her year of training as a K-2 coach, so she has been in your classroom this year teaching the literacy block. And I know, Mrs. Pasquetta, you finished your training last year, and this is your field year. And so, can we talk a little bit about coaching? So you both you've had coaching.
Yes.
So, what can you describe that experience? And did you feel threatened at first? And how has it been helpful? And how is it something ongoing that really helps you and helps the kids?
To be honest, we feel so lucky that we have Diane. She's been amazing, and I feel particularly lucky that she happens to be in Courtney's room because I get to kind of reap the benefits of having her there too. And we sit down weekly and we plan together and we talk through our writers' workshop and we talk through different kids, and she's just always there to be able to bounce an idea off of somebody. She came in and modeled an interactive read aloud for me, which was fantastic because I just kind of needed to know that I was doing it correctly. I needed some reassurance. And she's really there for anything, and it's just so nice to have like that expert person and to just bounce ideas off of each other. And I feel like I've grown so much as a teacher having worked with this amazing team, and being able to just talk about kids and how we can plan for them. And I just think, lots of heads are better than one, and we're very lucky to have Diane. I feel very fortunate for that.
And you raise a good point. So when we think about coaching, it's not just the piece where, so when you're learning something, it's good to have somebody who has been trained to come in, watch the lesson, and then you sit together and you get feedback. Right. And it's feedback where you might say, well, you know what, I don't know if I'm doing this interactive read aloud, so could you watch me do it and then give me feedback? It's that collaboration. But it goes beyond that. It goes around looking at students and student work and working together to develop those lesson plans, working together to develop those lessons.
Right. Well, in talking with Jen or with Courtney before observing, I kind of have that chance to get behind their thinking, so that when I'm watching, I know what I'm looking for, and then it's exactly what you just said. Once you get that comfort of having somebody in there watching you, you start to realize that more heads are better than one, and that I establish relationships with the students in those classrooms, and it really makes a big difference.
It does, and the coaching piece extends to supporting students in the classrooms as well. It's not, that you can, we know we need to look at student work. We need to analyze, and you want to work together collaboratively to do that instead of in isolation and trying to figure it out. And,
it's more work if we do it in isolation.
Yes, it is.
Working together, when we think about our days and how we're setting up our literacy block, it's just, you feel better knowing that we're on the same page and that the kids are getting, really good instruction, and we're all there.
And then we start having more common conversations, and we start to see the students as all of ours. It's
right, and the students are benefiting.
Right. One of the things that I've liked about coaching, and I've been teaching for a long time, is whenever I go into someone else's classroom, I always take something away with me. It's like you're never too old to learn something else. So I'll go into a room and I'll love an anchor chart they have on the wall, and I'll be like, can I take a picture of that? and I've copied it because we really do need to learn from ourselves. And I don't think we do that enough. When I started teaching, I was working in an old school from the 70s that was set up like pods, so everything was open. It was open classroom style, which was awesome because you did learn from each other because you're all together.
Right.
And now, they decided, education shouldn't be that way. Now it's closed door.
Yep.
And you can't learn that way. You have to learn from your peers. And so I'm learning when I go in as a coach. I really am. I'm taking something away from every classroom. And the nice thing about the student interaction, like when I'm in this building, the third graders and the fourth graders, they're all like saying hi to me and everything.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a little less afraid of me when they have me as a fifth grade teacher.
Yeah, there you
It's not really
go.
that bad.
On that wall.
Yeah, so especially the fourth grade students now, they're like smiling, like, oh, she's not so bad.
Right.
It's been really good.
Prior to the show, I was saying, again, when I was teaching, we got this beautiful new program. I was teaching 7th grade, and it came, boxes were delivered to my classroom. And I looked at it, and I said, well, we had 1 day of training. I said, well, I can use this because I have some takeaways for this, and I can use this. But I have no idea what to do with these other things, so where did my boxes go? In the closet.
Yep.
Because there was no, during those days, this coaching model and the sustainment of what we're trying to learn and do and working collaboratively wasn't in place. And you did feel isolated. And you did, it's like you hoped that your kids learned because there was no benchmarks. We didn't use data like we do today. And so I think it's fabulous, and it takes time to learn new things.
It does.
It really does. And we understand that, and that's the expectation, and that's why working together. We have the 2 experts that are going out to Leslie and bringing back what you learn and what you can share, and that's what the teachers want. Tell me, so it's not about that I'm different than you, but I'm getting a specialized training, and now I can share it with you.
Right.
Definitely.
And that's one thing that they both do so well. I mean, I have to say, I've never felt like, when I first started working with Diane, of course, we're all insecure sometimes
exactly.
as teachers, and
Yeah.
we want to do what's best for the students. So naturally, when someone else comes in, you think, well, am I doing this wrong? And you have this kind of defensive guard up. Over time, I have learned so much from Diane, and vice versa. I've learned so much
yes.
from each other, and that's such a
right.
collaborative thing. Even with Jen, we share so many ideas, and I think as teachers, we got into this field because we love children, and we want to do what's best. And there's no worse feeling than when you get to the end of the year and this child just hasn't made the benchmark or hasn't made the growth that you want. So having another set of eyes on it, for one, just seeing if there's something that you missed, but 2, reassurance that you are doing the right thing for this child, that's been something for me that's been really, really good.
And I think when we look at the program, there are so many pieces. Like you had said, there's the interactive reel down, and there's all these things that stem from it.
Right.
So when you look at the whole piece, I think it is overwhelming because there are so many pieces. But this year I've been able to implement interactive read aloud and reading mini lessons and guided reading, and I'm kind of pulling, and writer's workshop, and I'm kind of pulling different pieces from it. And my hope is that each year I'll kind of get better at each thing. And I just think it's this lifelong learning, and that we just need to take these baby steps to try it, because if we don't try it, we'll never see the benefits.
And it is that lifelong learning piece. I mean, it's called responsive literacy because we are really looking at our students and responding to their needs.
Yeah.
And as coaches, we're responding to the teachers' needs. And it's this lifelong journey. There's never a, now we've got it.
Right.
There's always room.
Yeah, you never have it. There's always something else. There's always something
What hearing from coaches is like, yes, we know that we have some room.
Yeah.
Right. And the coaching model is a research-based model that is effective and sustains the programming. And way back, this started, there was a curriculum adoption committee for the literacy program, and so the committee's recommendation was the balanced literacy program. And so Leslie was chosen. There are other professional development providers out there that would do the same type of professional development, but it's not the coaching piece.
Right.
So they come in for 1, 2, or 3 years, a 2-year model, and then they're gone. And then teachers are just, left without that constant support and that collaborative piece that those coaches that kind of glue everybody together, right? And now the 2 teachers here, I know your rooms are across from one another, so I'm sure that once you develop these great lesson plans and learning centers, you're sharing.
Oh, yes.
And it's
been
less
wonderful.
work for you,
Yes.
Just
right?
this morning.
There you go. And yesterday I taught this, and I saw the students struggle. How did it go for you when you taught this lesson? Did you find any different resources to use or anything like that? Speaking of resources, we're in the book room. And so I'd ask the teachers and the coaches, as far as resources and materials that we've been able to provide for you, do you feel they're adequate and that we've been responsive, if you will, to your needs with resources and professional development?
well, there's so many books to choose from, and there's so many skills that you can target. I think that the Clever website has been helpful because you can look and you can check out books and you can look for specific skills. But for me, when I'm choosing books, I'm thinking about the kids that are in the group, and there's nonfiction texts, and there's fiction texts, and there's, you know, the National Geographic. Oh, this friend's really going to love this, or oh, wow, he really likes lions. I'm going to take that book. So that's been something that's been really helpful.
And I think there's so many, and as we've been using them since we've had them, I think we're getting to know them more
Right,
too.
yeah.
So now we can say, oh, that child's at a D, and I really know this book, and they really love that book. So it's getting easier for us to choose those books too.
Right, and having that knowledge of the book already,
Yes.
so that I've already taught this with a group, so now I know exactly what my introduction is
Yes.
going to be. I know what my word work is going to be. That's
Right.
been helpful too.
And I love hearing you saying based on interest. So I know that,
Yes.
Johnny really likes animals, and so we're going to select some books because you want to get that reader interest.
Right.
Right, to motivate the reader and to want to read.
And if they're interested, they know a lot about it, so they're usually more successful with reading that.
Right. I know,
We're
like,
still adding to it also.
right.
Like I'm still looking at different titles, especially for the higher levels, because as you can see, when you get into the higher levels, most of the books are very long novels, which is hard to do in a guided reading setting.
Yeah.
So I have been doing some research on adding some shorter text
Yeah.
for the hires, and we've ordered quite a few and have received a lot more interactive read-alouds
Oh,
for the
wonderful.
grades
Nice.
to
Yeah.
share. We've been able to compile lists, and we have more interactive read-alouds for the teachers. So
That's great.
we keep adding to that.
And that's another big role of the coaches, to hear from the teachers, we need this, we need
Yeah.
more of this, we need less of that, and then to communicate to the building administration, these are the books we need to order.
Yeah.
This is where we're seeing, a need or an area we want to build. Can I go back to the Clever? So the Clever is the online kind of a library system, if you will.
Right.
You want to talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned
Yeah.
you're able to look at skills and
Yes, so you can break it down. If you were searching for, say you had a student who was reading at a level E and you really wanted to focus on cause and effect, for example, you could actually look that up specifically. It also allows you to check out the books and check in the books. But it's been helpful because you can kind of see all of the, level whatever that are there, or all of the skills that you want to target.
And you can look up by theme. So if it's the fall and you're studying pumpkins, you can find pumpkin books at all different levels. So every guided reading group is reading about pumpkins, but at their own level.
Right, and the other piece about it, so when you have the guided reading group, they read at their own level, but the program also encourages to challenge kids to read above their level a little bit, not in the guided reading group, but maybe in independent reading. That it's not always that they have to select a book at their reading level, that they might be encouraged to pick a book based on interest and try to read it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the
They
classroom, yeah.
In
Yeah.
the classroom, they can
Yeah.
pick books that are based on interest. We have the browsing boxes, which are books that are at their level or even easier, just to practice
Yeah.
reading.
Right.
But absolutely, they can read based on interest as well.
Yeah, and going off of that, we had a struggling reader in our class who was determined to read this Mo Willems book, and she sat for a week and she was like, Miss Powell, what's this word? Miss Lyons, what's this word? And she now can fluently read a Mo Willems book it's beyond where she was. So that shows that she was, one, interested, and two, determined. And I don't think that without that instruction she would have gotten there.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And the engagement. I mean, the fact that you guys have set up such a community that she feels, willing to take that risk, and that she's able to come to you and ask those questions, and she feels so comfortable and to
Right.
challenge herself instead of just sticking with what she knows.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things I had to do last year is rearrange my whole classroom library. I had it set up by AR accelerated reader levels, and so each box had different levels.
Yep.
I changed it completely. It's by genre,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's by author, and they can read anything they want.
Yep.
And that's a big switch, letting the kids read whatever they want. In the guided reading group, we're targeting skills.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're reading with a particular level in mind. But
Exactly.
when their independent reading is happening, it's anything they want.
And that's so true. I think that even when we started our work board, and Leslie wants you not to have it timed, but to
Right.
let the children self-regulate through it. And we both looked at each other and we
This
said,
will never
"This is
work.
going to be a disaster."
Never work. Yeah.
But, we had faith, we tried it, and it's been incredible. And, there have been so many times throughout the year where we've said, look at that.
What do we always say, Mrs. Lyons? Trust the process.
That's right. And
Do you have that on a poster?
I always say, okay, I'm just going to trust the process.
and I think that, it's for all the teachers, it's hard to let
Yes.
go of something that you really
really
believe. But Leslie has been really researching this for over 20 years. And they've been in so many classrooms that trusting that process is a piece of it. And as coaches, we're here to help support you through that because it can be really hard.
Yeah, and just knowing that not every day is perfect.
Right.
There's sometimes that I do a mini lesson and I'm like, well, that was horrible. But then, over time, looking at some of our writers, when they came in and they had just single words on the page and now they're writing with quotation marks and they're putting certain words in bold because they want the reader to really read it loud. I mean, that tells
Ellipses.
me... Yeah, oh, yes. Dot, dot, dot actually is ellipses. That they're taking ownership of it and they're proud of it and they're getting those higher level skills, which has been really, really nice to see.
And the professional development that's been provided has been, I know Nancy's been doing the 3 to 5 this year, and the evaluations have been good. And in the K to 2, we've been bringing in Leslie, as Diane will take over for that next year. And so, do you feel the professional development for you too has been really substantive and help deepen your understanding of the whole process, if you will? And the
Julie
program?
that comes in
Julie's
is very
amazing.
Yeah, she's very easy to work with.
We always say we're jazzed up after we leave.
Yes.
Like there's something that we take away that the next day we're like running into the classroom to try after that interactive read aloud book. We're taking notes.
Yeah. And Nancy has, I know we call it the diagram, which has all the components of the program, and I know that our viewers would not be able to see the fine print in this, but I think the messaging around all of these is that you're not going to learn it all at once.
Right.
And so you start with the basics, which was the BAS, then to the guided reading, and maybe the running records, the interactive read aloud. So those are the main pieces in the K-2 program right now that teachers are learning.
Yep.
And now we're starting to integrate the writer's workshop a
We'll
little
be
bit.
starting that. I mean, we've been doing it this year because it's my field year in training.
Sure.
But as a district, we haven't taken that on yet.
So that would probably going to look at that next year.
Yeah.
And then the 3 to 5. So the 3 to 5. So we did a phased-in approach to it. So 3 to 5 was trained last year in the BAS and now guided reading.
We did guided reading. We did BAS. I have done training on word study because that's a big piece because it's a transition from traditional spelling, and that's a really hard thing to let go of is traditional spelling. Next year I'm going to really focus on reading workshop because one of the ways you can get certain things done like guided reading groups is to have a really good reading workshop running in your classroom. So there's a lot more professional development we have to give, and Diane and I will probably have to spend some time figuring out is some of the PD going to be together like whole group, or will some of our PD at least parallel each other? We'll be figuring that out.
That's a great idea to bring everybody together too.
I mean, there may be some pieces that we can actually do together.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. So the reading workshop, just how is that?
Well, the reading workshop, one of the things that happens in reading workshop, there's a lot of independent reading going on and a lot of responding to literature. So in the older grades, they have a reader's notebook, which is really nice, and they respond to their reading in this notebook. And there's some of it is scripted, like I'll tell them what to respond, and some is not. It frees me up so that I can do things like a guided reading group. Right. So when I'm doing guided reading, they're all independent, doing their own thing, and when administrators come in, one of the comments I had from an administrator once is, I'm sitting at a table, I have 4 kids in front of me, we're doing guided reading, and the kids in the classroom are doing their own thing, and no one's doing the same thing.
Right.
And so the administrator said to me, what are they doing? I said, they're in Reader's Workshop. And so they're all reading something else. It's self-selected tests. Some of them are writing in their notebooks. Some of them are checking out books. It's very independent, but they do a lot of independent reading. And some of it is stemming off of a mini lesson that I gave at the beginning. Like, for example, during their reading, I want them to be focusing on some figurative language. And then at the end of the reading workshop, we come together and talked about figurative language. What did you notice? So there's a lot of reading going on. That's the big push.
Right.
And they're reading, like, I have given them a... not a challenge, but a requirement, read 10 books in a semester, and most of them have done way beyond that. And for 5th graders, that's pretty good, because we're talking big books.
Yeah.
So
And when they can choose, they have that interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Really
I was just going to say that choice.
A lot of books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the work that we've been doing, I appreciate all the work, the coaches and the teachers, and working together. I think I'm very proud of the work, and I hope that, the good work, I know it will continue, and look forward to next year. Does anybody have any final comments about the program? And
Well, I'm glad I have a coach to work
Yes.
with now. that,
Yeah.
that really helps, having the two of us together. We bounce a lot of things off each other. And next year, when you're in your field year, it'll be even better because we're going to really work together.
Yeah, and if I'll add to that in the end of the coaches. So when, so Nancy, of course, is in her coaching, her first year, and then Diane is training. So when we looked at the schedule, we wanted to schedule Diane and Nancy to have the same time off, and Diane was very resistant. She thought, I don't want to be teaching literacy in the afternoon. And so, she came back to me like 3 or 4 times and felt comfortable, and I'm happy that you would feel comfortable to say, would you please reconsider? And I said, well, I think you're going to find that collaborative time with Nancy is going to be very valuable, and if you're, and so, and it was so cute. One day I asked you how I was going, you said, oh my God, not a problem at all, working great. So it's what, trust the process. Yeah, and try it out, and take that risk. And it's the models worked really well for both of you.
Yeah.
Because you work together and support one
We
another.
work together a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's a fabulous idea for next year. Some of the PD days to bring, the K-5 teachers together.
Well, I think the 3-5 teachers need to know where all of this came from.
Yeah.
I think we need to hear
Yeah,
your
the
input
vertical.
because sometimes at our level, because I've taught 3, 4, and 5 as well as second, you don't see where it all came from if you've never taught those grades. And I think your input is going to be really valuable at the higher grades. I think it's really important.
And vice versa for us
Yeah,
to see
see
where the
where they
kids
go.
need to
Yeah,
go.
where they're
Yes,
going.
right, to get that
Yeah.
feedback
Right.
from
Yeah.
teachers say, well, this is what we're seeing, and I'm seeing these pattern or these trends, and
Right.
because that's what it's all about. It's all about providing the student with a high quality, rigorous education and making sure that they are reading. All children are reading, because
Right.
we all know all children can learn to read.
Right.
We all believe that. So, any final comments?
No, just thank
Thank
you.
you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and coming out of the classrooms and spending time with me here on District Talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.